Hey everybody, it's Walter from Artistic Gourmet Adventures, and Kim and I have this amazing villa in beautiful Lake Como, Italy, and we just wanted to give you a taste of what it's like to be here this week on this Artistic Gourmet Adventure. We're going to do a recipe for you today called Pappa al Pomodoro, and it's really a Tuscan bread soup. It was a way for farmers to use, leftover tomatoes, leftover stale crusty bread. It comes together very quickly, very easily, and so we're going to demonstrate that for you today. Okay, starting with our ingredients, of course, the main ingredient is tomatoes. Now, you can certainly use whole tomatoes for this, or you can use fresh tomatoes, or you can use canned tomatoes. In this case, I've got two small cans of tomatoes with their juice or with their sauce, and we've got some red onion. I've got one whole red onion that I've just thickly sliced. We've got 10 to 12 leaves of basil. You want fresh basil leaves, no stems. And we've got a clove, about 2 cloves of garlic, just sliced, that we're going to use for that. And then we've got our leftover crusty bread. It's a baguette that's been left over, as well as with the can that the tomatoes came in, we just filled it with water, and we're going to use that for extra liquid. And then we've got some just regular olive oil, not high quality extra virgin olive oil. It doesn't have to be the best quality olive oil, but that's going to be basically what we stew the vegetables in to get started, and then just salt and pepper to season it, and those would be our ingredients. Let's get started. This is one of the recipes that we actually serve while we're on our adventure, and again, it's called Pappa al Pomodoro soup, our sauce. We use it as a sauce to go with some handmade ricotta gnocchi that we serve our guests. But we'll start with our ingredients. Like I said, we've got our onions, and we're just going to start putting those in. So onions, we've got our garlic, and I know it looks like a lot of garlic, but this is going to cook slowly in oil, so it won't be that strong of a flavor. And our basil leaves. So we're going to start with those ingredients, and to that we are just going to add some olive oil, and don't be afraid to use a good amount of olive oil. Basically, this is a process called confit, C-O-N-F-I-T, and confit just means to cook slowly in oil. So we basically are covering our vegetables in oil, and we're just going to let those cook down for probably 15-20 minutes till the onions are very, very soft, and then we'll come back in and we'll add our tomatoes. So now we've got our oil in, and our vegetables are starting to cook a little bit, and so you don't want the heat to be too high. You want it to be just where you're seeing some bubbles in there. You're not frying the vegetables, you're confit-ing the vegetables, so cooking slowly. So once it starts to bubble up, then you can turn the heat down and let it just slowly cook. It's a process that you really don't want to rush this process. So while we're waiting for our onions and garlic to cook, I'll just give you another little view of, this is the back of our villa here in Lake Como. If you've ever had an opportunity to join us on an Artistic Gourmet Adventure, you know that we always rent very unique properties for our guests to enjoy. And in this case, this is just kind of over the top. It's just beautiful. So hopefully you can join us one day on one of our adventures. And I don't know if you can see it from here, but at the top of this mountain is a monument that is dedicated to a guy named Alessandro Volta. Alessandro Volta is the guy who invented the battery, and he was from the city of Como. And so they have built this monument in honor of Alessandro Volta. And hence the name volts when people are talking about the strength of the batteries. So just a little inside information for you. Okay, our vegetables have been going now for about 15 minutes. We are going, and you can see how nice and soft they are, just beautiful. That basil has absorbed some of the oil and cooked down the garlic. And I know it's breezy out here, but boy, the aroma is incredible. So we're now going to add our tomatoes. Just going to add all the tomatoes and their sauce. And you can also add, just for a little bit more flavor and color, if you've got some concentrate, tomato concentrate, tomato paste would be great to add into this. I don't have any today with me, but just add maybe a tablespoon of tomato paste concentrate, and that really increases the depth of flavor as well. So here's our tomatoes, and now we're going to bring the heat back up, and we want to get those tomatoes cooking and breaking down. And once that comes kind of to a boil, we'll turn it down and let it simmer for another 15 minutes or so until our tomatoes are starting to break down, and we'll go from there. Okay, I mentioned the tomato paste, and so we're just going to go ahead and add it. And now I'm going to be honest with you, we were kind of trying to get this done this afternoon, and I forgot the tomato paste originally. But when you're using tomato paste concentrate, it's really a good idea to add it before you add your liquid, so that you can kind of cook it out. It's kind of like adding flour to, you're making a bechamel sauce, or you're making something with flour in it. You want to cook it for about a minute or so just to get the rawness out. And so I'm going to go ahead, I'm adding that tomato paste now, but you really want to do that before you put your tomatoes in, and let those cook out. So we'll again let this come up to a nice simmer and let it cook. But look at that color, how beautiful is that? We are back, and now tomatoes have been cooking down for about 15 minutes. And just take a look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I wish you could smell it. Just incredible. So now when the tomatoes have cooked down for about 15 minutes or so, we're just going to go ahead and add the water. And we'll let that cook probably 5 minutes or so. And after that, we'll add our bread, and we'll see the result. So let's let that come to a slight boil, and we'll let it cook down a little bit. I'm going to leave the lid off now. We're going to leave the top off. We'll bring the heat back up, let it come to a little bit of a boil, let it cook for about 5 minutes or so. Then we'll add our bread. All right, look at this. Oh my goodness. Everything is coming together very beautifully. And so what we're going to do now is put our bread in. And again, it doesn't matter how, we've got some just leftover baguette. You could use more or less, whatever you feel. In this case, I'm using 2, 4, 6, 8 pieces of day-old crusty baguette. And so we are now just going to let those sit in there. We're going to turn the heat off, and we're just going to let that bread get all soaked up. And then we will come back and finish. It's been about 5 minutes since we put our bread in, and wow, this is the moment of truth. Look at that. Let's just see how, the bread is soaked up those flavors very nicely. We are going to use a submersible blender, and we're going to blend this right here in the pot. If you don't have a submersible blender, you can certainly pour this into your blender and do it that way. But we'll just start here on low speed. Just kind of get things broken up. And then we'll increase our speed. And look at the beautiful color. Everything is just coming together. And what I usually do with the immersible blender, if you pull it out and just take a look and see if there's any solid parts in the blender, then you know that you need to continue blending a little bit more. And but I think we've gotten all the solid parts out. I'm just going to take this apart so that it doesn't fall and break. And we'll set this aside. And let's just see how smooth it is. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. And I always like, during the process, I always like using a spatula just to keep those sides clean and to keep everything on the side from burning and make sure it goes in with the rest of the soup. Look at that. Okay. Let's give it a taste. Now, this is the most important part, because when you're, finishing something, you need to really make sure it's seasoned properly. So, we haven't added any seasoning, any salt, any pepper, anything to this yet. So we're just going to taste it, kind of see what the level is. Okay, it's very good. You can taste the tomatoes, you can taste the basil, the garlic, everything, but it has no seasoning. So we're going to season it. So let's do that with a little bit of sea salt and some freshly ground black pepper. Now at this point, you don't really need to blend anymore. You can just use your spatula to mix everything in. So mix it in, and we'll give it another taste. Oh man, that is just about there. I'm going to put one small amount of salt in it more. As you know, tomatoes are very acidic, and so to counteract that, they require a fair amount of salt. If you ever taste something that you think it's good quality tomatoes and etc., but it's just kind of got that real tang to it, try adding a little bit of salt to it, or even a little bit of sugar sometimes will help take the acidity away. All right, I can guarantee you that we are where we want to be, but let's just taste it to make sure. It's fantastic. All right, we are finished with the soup. Let's get it plated up and give it a taste test. We are ready to serve this Pappa al Pomodoro sauce with our gnocchi, and let's just give us a ladle full. By the way, if you are trying to serve soups and you keep spilling things, a good thing to do is just to use the lid that you have for your pan to take it over to the plate that you're putting it on, and that'll keep you from spilling everywhere and from making a sloppy mess. Now, we normally on our adventures we serve this with a handmade ricotta gnocchi, and today I've just got some normal potato gnocchis. And again, you can serve this with any any pasta that you'd like, or for that matter, you don't even really need pasta. It's great on its own. But we are using some gnocchis today. Very, very tasty. All right, and one in the center to grow on. Let's finish that, or let's top it with a little bit of fresh basil. Very good. And to make it even better, let's grate a little bit of fresh Parmesan around the plate. Well, what could be better than that? Okay, there you have it. And in this case, we've got Pappa al Pomodoro sauce with some gnocchis with a little bit of fresh grated Parmesan. And we're pairing this today with a red wine from Montepulciano di Abruzzo. Buon appetito! If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, give us a thumbs up below. and hit that subscribe button. It's free. And ring the bell if you want to be notified as soon as we release a new video. Also, let us know in the comments if you have any special recipe requests. We really appreciate you tuning in. See you next time.